You might hear stories, whispers passed down through millennia about how civilization was a gift, that the gods, in their infinite wisdom, simply handed down the rules of life, the arts of kingship, the secrets of the priesthood to humanity. Some tales might even mention Enki, the clever god of wisdom and sweet waters, and suggest he carelessly lost these precious gifts. It's a simple story, easy to tell. It paints a picture of a bumbling god and a lucky humanity stumbling upon the foundations of their world by accident. It's a neat, tidy narrative, but like many such tales, it clips the wings of a much grander, more interesting truth. The divine decrees that shaped everything from brick-making to love-making is almost comical. Imagine a god so powerful, one who helped shape the cosmos and filled the rivers with life, simply forgetting where he put the instructions for society. It makes for a charming anecdote, perhaps, but it strips the story of its power, its danger, and its true protagonist. The truth is not about a loss. It is about a deliberate and audacious act of theft. It wasn't an accident that brought civilization to the great city of Uruk. It was a heist, planned and executed by a goddess who knew exactly what she wanted. This wasn't a case of divine clumsiness or a fortunate mistake. Enki, the Lord of Wisdom, did not lose the divine powers known as the Me. They were taken from him. He was outsmarted, his hospitality used against him, his most prized possessions loaded onto a boat and spirited away before his hangover had even begun to clear. The goddess responsible was none other than Inanna, his ambitious, brilliant, utterly determined daughter, the queen of heaven and earth, who saw a future for her city and refused to wait for it to be given. So, let us set aside the simple myth of the forgetful god. Let us look past the clean, sanitized version and peer into the real story. The story that has survived for over 4,000 years, etched into cuneiform on tablets of clay, tells a very different tale from the one of a simple accident. It is a story of intent. Inanna, the patron goddess of the city of Uruk, looked upon her city and saw its potential. It was a good city, a strong city, but it was not the center of the world. That honor belonged to Eridu, the home of her father, Enki. It was Eridu that held the Me, the divine decrees that were the very soul of Sumerian civilization. And Inanna decided that this imbalance was something she would correct, by any means necessary. She did not ask for these powers. She did not beg. She did not pray. She did not offer sacrifices in the hopes that her father might share his treasures. She knew Enki. She knew his wisdom, but she also knew his fondness for a good feast, beer, wine, so she hatched a plan, not of war, but of wits. The myth is not called Enki's Unfortunate Afternoon, it is Inanna and Enki. The title itself tells you it is a story of two great powers in contest. Inanna is not a passive recipient of fortune. She is the active force, the agent of change who sets the entire narrative in motion with her journey. The tale begins with her preparing herself, adorning her body, and making herself a vision of divine power and beauty. She was not going to Eridu to ask for a favor. She was going on a mission. She instructed her loyal attendant, her Sukal Ninshibur, to be ready. She gave Ninshibur specific instructions on what to do if she did not return, a contingency plan that reveals the true danger of her undertaking. She was going into the heart of another god's power, to his sacred city, to take what was most precious. This was no friendly family visit. This was a divine raid, cloaked in the guise of a social call. Therefore, the central action of this myth is not a loss, but a theft. Inanna, Queen of Heaven, traveled to the watery abyss of the Abzu, Enki's domain, with the express purpose of acquiring the Me. The story doesn't judge her for this. It presents her actions as bold, cunning, and ultimately successful. Before we go any further into the story of the feast and the flight, we must understand what Inanna was after. What were these Me that were so valuable she would risk the wrath of the god of wisdom to possess them? The word Me, pronounced Me, is a difficult one to translate simply. They were not physical objects in the way a crown or a scepter is an object. Think of them as divine blueprints. Divine blueprints, the fundamental principles, the sacred patterns, the underlying rules, and the powers that made civilization possible. They were the invisible software that ran the hardware of the world. Without them, there could be no kings, no priests, no temples, no laws, no justice, no truth. There could be no crafts, metalworking, weaving, even concepts we think of as natural, fear, victory, the art of lovemaking were codified within the me. They were a comprehensive list of everything, tangible and intangible, that constituted a sophisticated, ordered society. Enki, god of wisdom, creation, and magic, was their natural guardian. He kept them in his sacred city of Eridu, within his temple, the I-Abzu. They were a collection of over 100 divine decrees, each one a specific power or concept. To possess the me was to possess the authority and the knowledge to implement these concepts in the world. For Uruk to become the preeminent city, it needed the me. Inanna knew that her city could not rise to greatness on its own. It needed this divine operating system, this celestial library of knowledge that Enki held so closely. So, when Inanna set her sights on the me, she wasn't just trying to acquire a few shiny treasures. She was attempting to transfer the entire cultural and religious core of civilization from one city to another. She was pulling the plug on Eridu's dominance and plugging it into Uruk. It was an act of cosmic reprogramming, a shifting of the divine center of the world. Each me was a spark of divine order, and Inanna planned to gather them all up and carry them home, lighting up her city of Uruk to become a beacon for all the lands. To truly grasp what Inanna stole, we have to look at the list. The me were organized, a catalog of divine powers. The first and most important group concerned the fundamental structures of power and society. These were the me that established hierarchy and order among mortals. They included exalted kingship. They included enduring kingship. They also included the exalted scepter, the throne of kingship, the exalted shrine. These were not just objects, but the divine right and authority they represented. Without them, a king was just a man with a fancy chair. This group also contained the foundations of the priesthood, godship, lordship, the role of the priestess. These decrees established the proper ways to interact with the gods, how to build their temples, how to perform the rites that kept the cosmos in balance. The next great category of me moved from the high concepts of power and emotion into the practical world of actions, crafts, and institutions. This was the part of the list that governed what people did. It contained the divine patterns for all the professions and skills that make a city thrive. For example, the me included the craft of the carpenter, the craft of the coppersmith, the craft of the scribe, the craft of the potter. Each of these was a sacred gift, a piece of knowledge that elevated humanity from simple survival to skilled creation. It included the kindling of fire, the extinguishing of fire, the assembly, the legal judgment, the decision, the foundations of a justice system, the me for music, the playing of instruments, singing, essential to ritual and courtly life. The list didn't just stop at broad concepts, it was specific. It included various musical instruments, the art of heroism, power, even the heroic story itself as a divine template. Finally, this group of me covered a wide range of abstract ideas that find their form in action. It contained the perfecting of the arts, the drive for excellence and mastery. It also included more ambiguous concepts like attentiveness, holy silence, weariness. By taking these, Inanna was claiming every facet of a functioning society, from its most skilled artisans to its system of justice, from its beautiful music to the very concept of paying attention. She was leaving nothing behind, ensuring Uruk would lack for nothing in its quest for supremacy. With her preparations complete and her attendant Ninshubur on high alert, Inanna sailed her boat of heaven to Eridu. When she arrived, Enki saw her coming from a distance. He was delighted. He called to his attendant Isimud, two-faced, who could see past and future, and told him to welcome her with honor. Pour her beer to drink, Enki commanded. Serve her the finest cakes. Give her the best seat. Fill her cup again and again. He saw a beautiful goddess, his daughter, coming to visit. He did not see the thief. The feast began. Enki and Inanna sat in his great hall and the beer flowed freely. The Sumerians were master brewers. The god's beer was potent. Enki began to drink heavily, tipsy, drunk, utterly drunk. His heart grew expansive, his tongue loosened. He wanted to give her the world. He started boasting about his most precious possessions. Upon my noble daughter, I shall bestow the divine me, he declared, slurring. One by one, he granted them to her. High priesthood, throne of kingship. With each toast, he gave away another piece of civilization. Me of truth, me of strife, me of the crafts, me of music. The list went on. He granted 7 me at a time, piling them into her hands. She sat clear-eyed and sober, accepting each with grace. As Enki called each group of me, she gathered them up and began loading them onto her boat of heaven. The wise Enki, defeated not by force, but by a few jars of beer and his own pride. With the divine decrees, the very soul of civilization, piled high in her vessel, Inanna wasted no time. The moment the last was loaded, she and Ninshubur pushed off from the docks of Eridu and set sail for Uruk. Her boat of heaven sped away across the waters of the canal, leaving the drunken god Enki slumbering in his great hall. The first part of her audacious plan was complete. She had secured the treasure. Now came the second, and perhaps more dangerous part. Getting it home before Enki realized what he had done. The journey back to Uruk was a race against time and the inevitable wrath of a god. It wasn't long before the effects of the beer began to wear off. Enki awoke, his head throbbing, his hall strangely quiet. Where are he wondered, looking around. His divine clarity returned in a painful rush. He turned to his vizier, the two-faced Isimud. Isimud, my attendant, where are the high priesthood? Where is the throne of kingship? Where are my precious... Isimud, who sees all, had to deliver the bad news. My king, he said, you gave them all to your daughter, Inanna. The full weight of his drunken generosity crashed down upon Enki. The rage of a god is a terrifying thing. Enki was not just embarrassed, he was horrified. He had given away the foundations of the world order. He immediately ordered Isimud to take the boat of heaven and pursue Inanna. Go, he commanded. Take back my holy. But Inanna had been prepared for this. She had given her loyal attendant, Ninshubur, a critical role. As Isimud's boat drew near, Ninshubur, a warrior in her own right, stood at the prow of Inanna's vessel, ready to defend their prize. The race was on. This journey was not a simple trip down a river. The tablets describe it as a series of 6 or 7 dramatic stops, waypoints between Eridu and Uruk, where Enki's forces caught up with the fleeing goddess. At each point, a confrontation occurred, but Inanna, aided by the steadfast Ninshubur, held her ground. She had not come this far only to fail. She clutched the divine decrees to herself, protecting them with all her might. The boat of heaven, carrying its precious cargo, continued on its desperate flight, pushing ever onward toward the high walls of Uruk. Enki was not a god to give up easily. After his first attempt with Isimud failed, his fury and desperation grew. He marshaled more powerful forces. He unleashed a host of terrifying beings to intercept his daughter and reclaim what was his. Uru giants, monstrous creatures of the deep. Lahama, hairy beasts of the sea. All manner of sea monsters, guardians of the Abzu, his watery domain. At each stage of Inanna's journey, a new, more frightening blockade appeared, sent by her father to stop her at any cost.
"Oh, Inanna Queen, return the me to your father."
But Inanna refused. "My father has spoken to me falsely. He has broken his promise." With the help of Ninshubur, she fought him off and continued her journey. Then, at the next stop, Enki's forces attacked the Boat of Heaven, attempting to seize it and drag it back to Eridu. The waters churned, the sky darkened, divine powers clashed. Yet at every turn, Inanna prevailed. The myth credits her success to Ninshubur, who fought off the creatures. Inanna, now in possession of the Me, was more powerful than before. Me of victory, Me of heroism. No longer just goddess of love, she was a warrior queen, armed with the very concepts of power she had stolen. She turned Enki's gifts against his servants, using the divine decrees to protect her passage and ensure her escape. Finally, the Boat of Heaven arrived at the docks of Uruk. The pursuit was over. Inanna had made it. She and Ninshubur began to unload their precious cargo. Enki made one last appearance, but it was too late. The Me were on the shore of Uruk, displayed for the city to see. His tone changed. He acknowledged his defeat. He had been outwitted. He accepted that the Me belonged to Uruk and blessed Inanna and her city, formally recognizing Uruk as the new center of civilization. With the Me safely delivered, Uruk was transformed. Inanna, triumphant, unloaded the divine decrees one by one, announcing their arrival to her people. She brought them ashore and assigned them their places within her city. "I have brought the high priesthood. I have brought kingship. I have brought music. I have brought the scribe's craft." With each announcement, Uruk became more complete, more powerful, more civilized. The city that was once just strong became the cultural heart, the religious heart, the political heart of the known world. The people celebrated with a great festival. The story concludes with a formal recognition of this new world order. Enki, having accepted his loss, speaks to Inanna and acknowledges her victory. He blesses Uruk, confirming its new status. Eridu's time as the sole holder of divine authority is over. Uruk, under the patronage of its cunning and ambitious goddess, now shines as the beacon of Sumerian life. The myth serves as an origin story, not for civilization itself, but for the supremacy of a particular city. It explains why Uruk was the greatest of them all. This ancient tale offers us a profound way to think about power, culture, and progress. It suggests that civilization is not a static gift, forever fixed in one place. It is a dynamic force that can be challenged, moved, and claimed by those with enough daring and vision. Inanna's story is a testament to the idea that power doesn't always flow from the top down. Sometimes it is seized from below or from the side by those who see a better future and are willing to risk everything to make it a reality. It is a myth about disruption, innovation, and the founding of a new order. And so, the story of Inanna and Enki is much more than a simple fable about a drunken god. It is a sophisticated narrative about the transfer of cultural dominance. It celebrates ambition, cleverness, and feminine power in a way that feels strikingly modern. It reminds us that the great centers of our world, our cities of art, knowledge, and power, did not get that way by accident. They are the product of ambition, of struggle, and sometimes of a glorious and world-changing theft. Inanna didn't just build Uruk with bricks and mortar. She built it with stolen fire from the gods. This video was made possible by Thunderbird Perch. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Think about it. A new world awaits. Thunderbird Perch.